Thank you for downloading this podcast from the British Theatre Guide. For more information about British Theatre Guide, please visit britishtheatreguide.info. Mary Wollstonecraft, famous for her work A Vindication of the Rights of Woman, was born in London in 1759, but spent some of her early life in Beverley near Hull in Yorkshire. Playwright Maureen Lennon and actor Laura Elsworthy, who are both from Hull, will together bring her back to the region in Maureen's play Mary and The Hyenas, in which Laura will play Mary, which opens at Hull Truck Theatre in February 2025 before transferring to Wilton's Music Hall in London in March. I spoke to Maureen and Laura while the play was in rehearsal in Hull, and first I asked Maureen to introduce us to what the play is about.
So the play is about the life of Mary Wollstonecraft, who was an 18th century, she's known as the mother of feminism, although that's perhaps a bit of a reductive term, things never come from one source. But she was an 18th century philosopher, woman, activist, and she wrote a very famous text called Vindication of the Rights of Woman, which is seen definitely as the kind of seminal text in terms of founding contemporary Western feminism. And she grew up in Beverley, just round the corner from where I grew up in Hull. So this play takes us kind of on a broad sweep of her life, and it's circular. So it starts on her deathbed. She died at 38, giving birth to her daughter, who in some ways is more famous than her, Mary Shelley.
Yeah.
And we start there and we end there in the play. And it's kind of, the play is given an opportunity that she never got in life, which is her to speak to her daughter, Mary Shelley, and tell her about what she's learned in her life.
Yeah. And your approach to this is as a musical, basically, is it?
Yeah. We keep dancing around. Is it a musical, playing with songs? I think it doesn't fulfill all the rules of a musical, but I would say it's not quite what you'd expect from a piece of gig theatre either. So I think we're kind of sitting in the middle of those two things. It's got a really unique sound because, the brilliant Billy No-Mates is kind of without copy. So she's produced something really, really stand out. But yeah, it uses song and movement and in quite an unexpected way, I think. So we were quite keen to do something that kind of cut across the period sense of it. Yeah, and really spoke to a contemporary audience.
So how's the experience been working with Billy No-Mates and the director Esther Richardson? Has there been a lot of collaboration to, I suppose this is more than just writing a script and handing it in if it's something new, like you say.
Yeah. How's it been? Terrible. No, I'm joking. It's been a really long process, this one. So how it came about, I'd been wanting to play about Mary for a while. I actually found a treatment that I'd written when I was pitching it around in 2016. So, 9 years ago. But Hull Truck approached me in, I think, 2018, just saying they were interested, basically asking me to pitch some ideas about what they could do that might be in some way connected to the city. And I was really interested in the experience of girls and women and how we grow them in our city currently and how that spoke to a lot of Mary's ideas. So I pitched this as a story. And then Esther came on really quickly in 2020, I think. So it was pre-first draft. And that's been so helpful. She's got a wealth of experience of making really playful, big work that uses a lot of different, I suppose it's really alive, is using a kind of ensemble led, which was really helpful with this story when we were thinking about how do we make sure it doesn't sit too much in the mire. Yeah. And also she's got loads of experience with adaptation, which is what Pilot have done a lot of recently. And although this isn't an adaptation in some senses, it felt a bit like one because there was so much core material, whether the facts that we know about her life, but also her own writing, all her own thoughts, and a wealth of stuff that other people have written about her as well. So it felt a bit like we were adapting, we were choosing our lens and what we wanted to say. So that's been the dream really. And then Tor, which is Billy No-Mates' name, not Billy, like I get when as a fan I met her and she agreed. We'd reached out to her because we'd gone round and round the houses searching for what the sound of the show might be and who might do these songs. And when we found her, we were became super fans. And then in the first meeting, I was felt like a a little fan who kept calling her Billy by mistake. But yeah, Tor is, amazing. I've never done anything for theatre before, but was really interested in this idea. I think the project hit her at just the right time. And she really wanted to have a go at that art form, but also put her unique twist on it.
Yeah. So Laura, what's it been like trying to recreate, I suppose that much misused word iconic could certainly be applied to Mary Wollstonecraft, couldn't it?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not thinking about trying to be iconic that much because I think that's a lot of pressure. But no, it's amazing. I've kind of been on and off involved in the project for a little while with workshops and stuff. So it's always it's been in the back of my head for a few years. And then when I accepted the job, I did a lot of research. Some would say too much research. I've read so much about Mary Wollstonecraft, I can't even tell you. But what's been really nice is now coming into the room and kind of letting go of that and channeling it into Maureen's version of it.
Yeah.
And that's all that we really can do. But it's lovely to have all that. There's so much writing from her. There's a book of every single letter she basically wrote in her life. So being able to read that and try and do her justice, basically. That's what my aim is. She inspired so many people. So if I can do that, like, fingers crossed with one young person or old person, then I think that would be a really good tribute to Mary.
Yeah, she's well known for what she did and what she represents, but what was she like as a person?
Oh, she was difficult. She wasn't, I think there's this thing sometimes of wanting to represent women, especially, as kind of really nice and fluffy and warm. And she wasn't. She was difficult and she was hard at times. And that's how she had to be able to get across what she wanted to say and for people to take her seriously. She was a really complex character, and you see in our retelling of the story the complex things that happen with as well. I think Maureen's really not shied away from that side of her. We're not trying to make Mary seem likable, I don't think.
I mean, I love Mary, but I think you would say she had main character energy. Yeah. And those people are great to see on stage, and maybe they're a little bit hard to live with. Yeah. But she's a force. She's a force of nature. And someone asked me the other day, do you think she'd like the play? And I said, honestly, I've got no idea. But what I can tell you is she would have a really big opinion on it, but it could go either way. She wasn't someone to sit in the middle. And and I think particularly that sort of nature as a woman, you are kind of bowled over by it, but also I find it kind of admirable, because to be that big and not allow the world to shrink you is hard. And it was even harder in the time that she was living. So, what a comet.
Yeah. It's one of those notes that I know I've heard screenwriters say that they recoil from if they get them from executives, that the lead character's not likable or not sympathetic enough, but they don't have to be, do they?
No, I think it's more interesting as an actor to play as well. Like,
yeah.
Also, you get to find those moments where they are weirdly likable, and you get to dig in a different way. And I don't think she's not likable. She's just exactly what Maureen said. She's a force, and that when someone's a force constantly, it can be a bit much sometimes, and it can have consequences. But it's always going to be interesting to watch. Yeah, someone fighting against the world like that.
That's often a debated subject as well, how much research helps for an actor. Obviously, it helps for the writer because you've got to create that world. But for an actor, how much of that is just something you like doing, and how much of it is actually useful when you're playing the character?
What's really interesting, and this is probably not a good thing to say, I never research, really. Like, I am not that kind of actor. I usually go with guts. I didn't train as an actor, so I don't have any framework of how to do that, and I just never did. But Mary kind of crept into me, like as in, I got more and more obsessed with her, and I just, not only for myself doing the part, but I just wanted to know more about her, because she really is, when you start looking into her and her ideas and her thoughts, she's amazing. She's so fascinating. So I think I got a little bit addicted to finding out more information about her. It's the first role that I've researched. I feel like Maureen should be very proud of me for that.
Laura went really deep. Laura's been on this for a long time, which actually has been a real gift. It's really rare to get to do that as a writer. But she did the first ever reading we did of an early draft in 21?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then all the way through, and has had, such an influence on who that character is. But she did go deep. She kept texting us things. I've got this ring because Mary had this ring, and I'd be like, okay. And at one point she sent me and Esther a picture. She was walking on Putney Bridge, where actually Mary tried to take her own life, and we were saying, okay, Laura, but stay on the bridge. We don't
go too method.
You're floating down the Thames. It's just
like a selfie. Look, I'm where Mary is staying. But no, she's got a little grip on me, but it feels exciting, and it's also exciting that I've been able to do all of that, and then now park that and move into the script, which is really cool. Yeah.
So how is that as a writer to be getting that sort of feedback from the actor? Because I don't suppose you often get that.
Feedback? I'd say actors love feedback.
I mean, in terms of the writing and the rewriting.
Yeah. No. I think you're fine. Yeah. Often that as well. Well, I think Laura gives very good notes, so that's okay.
You heard it here first, guys.
Also, me and Laura were also at school together, so we maybe could push back if we felt like the one or the other was stepping them out.
We were a year apart at school, and kind of knew of each other and did some little youth jam things together, where I was playing a very posh lady and Maureen was a maid.
I was always a servant. Yeah. I was always the chubby servant.
But I was saying to Esther actually the other day that it's such a privilege, because we didn't know each other really well at school. I wouldn't say we were really good friends or anything, but it's this weird pride of we went to a normal comp school. There wasn't loads of creative people coming out of that school, but it's so every so often I look over at Maureen and I'm like, we went to this normal comp, there wasn't this massive thing about, and look what you're doing, look what I'm doing, we get to do it together. And it's just it feels like a really beautiful thing after so many years, forging our own paths, to come together, and we've got this like shared language of Wolferton School.
Wolferton School.
Yeah, shout out to Wolferton School.
Shout out to Wolferton.
Wolferton, if you're listening, bring some people to the Playhouse.
So I suppose that makes it more special that you're opening this in Hull then.
Yeah. I think me and Laura are both really passionate about being from Hull and the art scene here. And, we don't need to go into the whole debate like London, regional, blah, 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 blah. But I really credit Hull and Yorkshire with my whole career. And the thing I'll say about the people here is that there is a real community and there is a spirit of championing each other's work. And I think that's had to be built quite carefully, but that always feels like a real gift to me. Like your peers want you to succeed in this community and we all love the city and we're all passionate about that, what kind of art can be made here. So I'm not pretending it's some sort of utopia, but yeah, it feels really special to be, I think speaking to a whole audience, I always find is a real privilege.
Yeah, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing if it wasn't for Hull playwrights and Hull Truck, giving me that opportunity at 19 years old. And I've been really lucky to go off and do all these crazy things. But there is something always really magic about coming back here. I feel like I've grown up here. I feel like the audiences at Hull Truck have seen me from 19 years old until 33. And that's really magic. I feel like in a different way, sometimes when you're doing theatre outside of this kind of area, you feel like I have to prove yourself, but in a different way. Here, I want to make people in Hull proud. I want a little girl maybe who didn't think about being an actor to watch and be like, oh, maybe that's a possibility and maybe I can do that. It feels different. It feels really nice to be here.
Also, it's nice that the show is mirroring Hull, obviously for Mary and London, which was, Mary's big things. And if anyone in Paris would like us to go there next, we're willing, we're open to offers. So,
you'll make that sacrifice,
Yeah.
We will.
Yeah.
Hull, of course, was the city of culture a few years ago and did very well out of it. And now it's come back to Yorkshire as well, to Bradford, isn't it? Not too far away. So Yorkshire is still a centre of culture, isn't it?
I mean, it is. It always has been. I don't know why anyone would ever move the city culture anywhere else, actually.
Yeah. Look, we can't slag off London because we're about to go to London. And London, please buy some tickets. We love it. But yeah, Yorkshire is... in my opinion, just superior.
Yeah, I'm speaking from the other side of the Pennines, of course, I should say.
Yeah, okay, you stay there.
Manchester's good as well.
Manchester's good. I love Manchester. Yeah.
Manchester's too big for me. I have to say, I've become like a real bumpkin when I'm in it. I'm like, oh my God, there's so many things.
Am I going to have to take you on the tube when we're in London?
No. The tube's okay because it's all mapped out, but the trams in Manchester, I cannot understand.
Complicated.
Far too much for me. Yeah.
No, me neither, but they don't actually come close to where I live. I'm take it from what you're saying that the feel of the play isn't 17th century. It doesn't look and sound 17th century. So what's the feel of it when the audience comes in?
I'd say it is period. It plays homage to the period, and then it's really deliberately anachronistic at some points. I've used a word there that I'm not sure I totally understand, but it deliberately breaks this homage to the period at points. But I would say that is always a deliberate choice rather than, I promise you guys, you always get these people writing and be like, they didn't have that in the edit. We know. Think about why we might have chosen to do it. Because what we wanted to do was, you do have to root it a little bit in the time to understand the context in which Mary's operating. But we also wanted to allow the resonance that her life has with, I think, contemporary women's experience to cut across the ages. So the sound of it is not period, but the dialogue, is paying a nod. Obviously, we don't actually know how people spoke back then. It's paying a nod to some of that language. We haven't got loads and loads of okays in it, which actually ruined my life when I was writing the script. Didn't realise how much I was relying on those little markers. But equally, there are points where the language is really deliberately contemporary, and the same with what the brilliant Sarah Perks has designed. I think the design is doing the same thing.
Yeah, and the design also really allows, because there's me playing Mary and the Hyenas, which are an ensemble of brilliant women who play all the other characters, and they're amazing. Suddenly I'm halfway through a scene not knowing where I'm going next, and then there'll just be some brilliant humans stood in front of me doing some amazing acting, and I'm like, oh, okay, there I am. But the design really allows them to pop in and out of the different characters, to observe Mary retelling a story and all of that kind of stuff as well.
Why hyenas?
Can I say this one?
Sure.
Hyenas, because one of the criticisms that Mary got when she released Vindication was that she was a hyena in petticoats.
Right.
Yeah, basically, and I don't think Mary was that chuffed about it at the time, but I thought a hyena in petticoats sounded so cool.
Yeah.
I was like, I would love to be a hyena in petticoats. So I suppose the idea is it's a little reclamation of that time, a bit of a reclaiming of, if you have to find yourself snarling at the world as a woman, feel free. So they're kind of a traditional kind of idea of a chorus in the show. They play all the other characters. They help with the storytelling. They back Mary up. And at times they tear her down, much like, anybody in our lives.
And you only have to play one character.
I only have to play one character. I mean, she's a character, but yeah, I only have to play Mary.
Yeah, Laura's got it easy actually. She's only in every single scene, and she does about 80% of the work. But yeah, really, it's an easy ride.
So what sort of audience are you expecting, or is this aimed at? 'Cause I know Pilot has often produced theatre for young people. Is it aimed at a younger audience?
Well, it's actually the age on it is 14 plus and 13 plus as an advisory, because there are some dark themes in there and strong language. But the more we've been doing it, obviously Pilot are going to be focusing on their GCSE kind of age and the A-level kind of age. But I'm really looking forward to, my mother-in-law actually has booked with her best friend of like 40 years. And I think that they will get a lot out of it as well. I just think it's really vast and wide. And I think that Pilot obviously do make work for younger people, but this isn't just a piece of theatre for them. There's a lot of dark themes in there as well, but also a lot of love and a lot of light. So I think hopefully it will really reach a really big range of people.
Yeah, and I think Pilot felt they've done a few shows in the past couple of years that have been perhaps for the target in the younger end of their target audience. And for this one, we spoke about it being kind of teenagers to mid-20s as like what they wanted to get out of it. But honestly, I mean, but I'm saying this because my mum didn't care about swearing. There's definitely some swearing. We're Northern, okay, guys?
Yeah.
There's swearing. But like...
17th century swearing.
Someone asked me the other day, could they bring their 11-year-old? And I said, well, look, this is what's in it. I would bring mine, but it's up to you. But equally, I'm sure Mary's got her own kind of following and that's perhaps quite different to that crowd. So although we've focused on how can it speak to that crowd, I really hope that also, older people who've already heard of her, people who are excited to hear about this period of history will also come along.
I'm sure there are Mary Wollstonecraft societies around the country. So
there is one, and it's quite modern, actually, contemporary. And kudos to them because they've been fighting for her for a while, and on no money to try and get her name out there, the charity. But yeah, actually, there wasn't one for a really long time. It would surprise you. Yeah.
And if they turned up, would they be pleased with what you've done today?
Oh, who knows? No, hopefully they will. They're actually based partly in Hull. So they've been working with us a little bit. We've chatted to them. I think in some ways it's a question of, I'm sure there'll be people who feel like this isn't their version of Mary. And I feel really kind of relaxed about that because I think this is a lens that we've taken on her. And I genuinely believe there could be 50 plays about her. So if someone else wants to do a different one, I think some people might feel, that didn't completely happen like that. Being totally truthful, we've made stuff up. And I think that's really important to state because we're making a piece of theatre and what we said right from the beginning is we're not interested in making historical artifacts. And I really believe history's gone. You can't go back there. We're all making it up all the time. So, we've made it up in a way that says what we want to say to the world and to the audience and uses her story. But in the spirit of Mary, we will not apologise for
it. Yeah, after something like Six, the musical has been so successful in not rewriting but restaging history as a rock musical. I suppose you've got the freedom to do anything, really, haven't you, in a sense?
Yeah, and I think it's why make a play about history rather than a documentary or write a novel? And the thing about theatre is it happens now. It's always live and it's in the present. So it has to be speaking to our present moment. Otherwise, it's an artifact. It's not living. So I think that's just something that we spoke about a lot right from the office. What do we think in this story is still living now, and how do we shape that? Yeah.
So this is a question that I remember one of my playwriting tutors often used to say, why now? Why now for this play?
Why now? Why now? Well, being honest, because I've been waiting for ages for it to be on. But I think both the tragedy and the beauty of Mary's ideas and Mary's stories is when you cut through some of the language, which might feel archaic, when you cut through to the heart of what she's saying, it's very basic and it feels like we're still asking now. So she, her most famous quote, which feels so basic, is, I do not want women to have power over men, but over themselves. Well, I mean, you only have to look at what's just, Roe versus Wade being repealed in America. Women don't have power over themselves. And that is basically under the law. You look at not to get too serious, but sexual violence statistics in this country where, rape is basically legalized. Women do not have power over themselves, even within the law in our society. Now, we could go through our life and we could say all the other things that speak to the contemporary moment. But I think if the most basic things that she's asking for, we still haven't done, it's time to start. When I've really got excited about the play and when I thought, yeah, I think I know how to write this, was I came across a quote, and it's not written like this, I am paraphrasing, but she has a quote when she looks at her first daughter, her first baby, and it's written in her letters. And she says, I'm afraid when I look at her. I'm scared because I look at her and I think I want to bring her up to be everything that she can be. I want her to be big. I want her to unfold her mind and make her believe that she's got power. But I also want her to be happy and loved. And I think the world is going to make her sacrifice one or the other. And that to me felt so current. I'm in my early 30s. I'm at the age where all my friends are, a few babies in. And that is a discussion that I've heard them have about their daughters when they said, well, we want her to believe that she can be anything when she grows up. And also, we don't know when to tell her about sexual violence. And you think, if we're still having to do that at an age, we're still having to think, we want our girls to believe that they can be empowered and have agency and live full, big, happy lives. And we also know that the world is hostile to those sort of girls and women. Then we've got a really long way still to go. And Mary is still speaking directly to our deepest, deepest fears.
Yeah. And I was thinking as you were talking then about the rise of misogyny online, particularly with young boys and like Andrew Tate and things like that. I suppose it's important to get the message to young audiences, isn't it?
Yeah, I recently did a tour of something, and there was a lot of issues with some younger members of the audience with wolf whistling and shouting kind of misogynistic things. And it really surprised me because I've been doing theatre for a really long time, and to suddenly have that in front of me made it even more, me want to do this even more. Because I remember thinking when I left the stage when those things were happening, what about the girls that are getting back on the bus with those boys, and they're being taught these things that aren't going to serve them in life, because women are more than half of the population. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, you need to have relationships with each other in whatever way they come. And that was quite a difficult thing to experience. And this play and this job feels to me like a way of maybe giving back to those women as well. And also, there's things in here for those younger men as well. There's things they'll really enjoy in this, and they'll really connect with. So, like, can we get in that way as well? Like, yeah, I just think it's really exciting, and there's so many possibilities with this for every gender, and can see it.
I think that's such an important point, because I think it's been really interesting. I work a lot in schools, and, we are in a rising tide of misogyny in a way that is really scary. And we definitely need to think about how we're reaching young men. But it's been really depressing to me that a lot of the suggestions that you see from really well-meaning people about is the way that we reach them is that we ask girls and women to shrink themselves back down as if there's only so much space. Yeah. And truthfully, that cannot be the answer. We can't say, hey, you've got to be smaller again, because, we've got to think about how we encourage both. We encourage people to feel heard without it having to be built on the backs of girls that have had to make themselves tiny. And also, we've got to encourage, this is a discussion I have a lot because I write a lot of female-led work. And it is really easy to say, hey, this is for women. And don't get me wrong, I hope loads of girls and women come to this, and I hope they feel seen and confirmed. But equally, men, boys, I hope you come. And I think you really will engage with it. And the reason for that is because Mary is a deeply human person. And I manage, and, girls manage, because they're taught from a really young age to engage with men as humans and to engage with their stories as human stories. And I worry that that is not how we talk about women's stories. And I worry that we think that a woman's story can't be universal and can't contain the breadth of humanity. And I think Mary really proves us wrong there. And she was really passionately saying, even in the 18th century, hey, patriarchy is really bad for men and boys as well. It is oppressing them in many ways. And if we could free women to, so we could all support each other and have that freedom, it would really improve their lives as well. And if she can be making that argument in the 1700s, I think we can still understand it now. So just to say, we've spoken a lot about women experiences, but, I think there really is stuff in there that you can come and you can understand and you can feel with her, no matter who you are. And I encourage you to do that, because I think exercising that empathy muscle is like how we solve this problem.
Plenty of serious messages there, but this is I put across through having fun, isn't it? It's going to be a fun show. Yeah. It's not going to be a somber experience.
It is so much fun, to the point as well. And also it's really hard work, because I said yes to this job, okay? I'm very excited about playing Mary Wollstonecraft, very excited to work with Maureen, very excited to work with Esther and Billy. There's a lot of dancing in this show that I didn't quite acknowledge. Like, I think I've looked in the mirror yesterday. I do have one ab coming. She's growing. She's getting stronger. Maybe I'll have two by the end of the job. But yeah, there's like so much joy. And I think that's the brilliant thing about the way that Maureen's written this story. You'll be at the point of crisis, and then some incredible comedy scene will happen, or this brilliant upbeat dance routine will happen. And we're all sweating a lot in that rehearsal room.
We've got Strictly then.
Yeah, exactly. I'm up for it.
And we've got some silly beards, and we're having some fun with some characters. We've got There's many times where I'm, being Mary, and I kind of have a different track to the rest of the actors, because I have to because I'm only playing one part, and she can be quite serious quite a lot of the time. And then someone will look at me and I'm like, I can't look at you in the eye. I need to look at your nose, because what you're doing is so funny. And I'm trying to be very serious, maintain my integrity. So there's so much joy in it, and the set is so joyful, and the costumes are so joyful. Yeah, I think it's going to be a real roller coaster of like, what do I feel now? And like, which is what's brilliant about it, is that is what Mary's life was.
Yeah.
It was such a roller coaster. So hopefully the audience might feel a little bit of how she felt by the end of it. Like, yeah.
So what's one thing that really surprised you when you were looking at Mary that you didn't expect to find about her?
It's weird, because I know so much now. I'm like, there are so many things.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of a different answer, because someone asked me this question the other day, and I just spoke loads about how she'd written about sex.
Yeah.
and she had a bit of a complicated relation to sex, but I spoke loads about her and her husbands. Her and Godwin, who end up together at the end, they have a very interesting start to the relationship, and where basically they send these letters back and forth all the time, but in loads of them they're kind of like reassuring each other. Yeah, like they try and consummate their relationship quite a few times, and it doesn't quite happen. And Mary's kind of writing to Godwin like, "Don't worry, it happens a lot. It's fine." It just felt so modern. She's like being very reassuring.
Yeah.
I suppose there's something in that. What surprised me most about her was like, I remember reading her quite early on in GCSE. And thinking, I agree with everything she's saying, but I can't find her in it. I found the language that she's writing in really hard to access her personality underneath. And having sat in the reset for a long time and read a lot of her letters and then gone back. And I think, to me, what surprised me was finding that personality underneath and realising how much it felt like it sprung out to me, and how much it felt like alive, and how much when she's writing things, but they might be phrased very differently. But I think, what she's actually saying is like, don't be a knob, or like, do you know what I mean? And I was like,
yes.
She's me texting someone, being like, please come back now. Yeah. So that kind of, finding, I suppose that contemporary, but also that almost fallible and recognizable side of her really surprised me.
I think because I actually didn't know that she'd grown up in Beverley, and I live in Beverley now, just outside of Hull. And when you start reading her letters, there's a lot of letters to someone called Jane Arden, who was a friend of hers, who she developed like very strong feelings towards this new friend. And I think some of it was linked to Beverley was kind of the first place where she started using her brain in a different way, because usually girls would be just sent to day schools and they'd be taught a little bit of French and sewing and things like that. But Beverley was basically where she started thinking bigger. And it was amazing reading all the letters, because there's a lot of descriptions in Beverley and like places I walk past, and the Westwood, which is just this big, massive common land basically, and kind of I spend every day walking my dog there. So I suddenly found myself in these places having read the stuff like, oh, she was here, and like she literally walked down this street, and it's quite a weird moment of like, oh no, she was actually here. And which is really special, actually.
So you could actually run a Mary Wollstonecraft tour of Beverley then now, could you?
We'll be open on April the 1st when I get back from London.
I mean, yeah, we should say that they do Heritage Days, which is quite a recent thing at her house. And her house in Beverley, which someone told me the other day, I didn't know, it's the only, structure that she lived in still standing. So you can really get a real sense of her, yeah.
So you open in Hull fairly soon. When do you open?
7th of February.
And then you go to, where do you go after that?
So we're here the 7th of February until the 1st of March. And then we're in Wilton's Music Hall from the 18th of March, I want to say.
Genuinely have no idea.
18th of March or the 17th.
I'm so impressed with Laura.
Until the 29th of March. So we've got a couple of weeks in London as well.
Right. Okay. And what's next for either of you? Have you anything else lined up?
Oh goodness, I don't know. Who knows? I mean, I've been working for 15 years now, and it's still like, you just never ever know. Maybe some sleep, and maybe trying to get Mary out of my head. Maybe a holiday.
Nice. Yeah, nothing. I'm so unemployed. So if anyone's listening to this.
This is our plea.
You got nothing you want to pitch now.
I've really got some pictures. I'm pitching hard. So if anyone would like to employ me, then I'm really up for it.
She's excellent. Use her.
I'm excellent, and I'm also cheap. So
really
That was playwright Maureen Lennon with actor Laura Elsworthy, who is playing Mary Wollstonecraft in Maureen's play Mary and The Hyenas for Hull Truck Theatre and Pilot Theatre, directed by Esther Richardson with music by Billy Nomates, which runs at Hull Truck from the 7th of February to the 1st of March 2025, before transferring to Wilton's Music Hall in London from the 18th to the 29th of March. For more information and tickets, see www.hulltruck.co.uk or wiltons.org.uk. You've been listening to a podcast from British Theatre Guide. For more information, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.